Hi, I'm Michelle Cooper, and welcome to my studio. This is my travel kit that I take with me on urban sketching excursions and also during the cold weather of the Pacific Northwest winter, as it is now. I use it for painting from my car. Everything fits compactly on a portable steering wheel desk. So I'm going to use this during this demonstration just to show you that you can paint a 9 by 12 painting very easily with just these few portable supplies. We'll talk about this little mist spray in just a second. First, I'll also bring with me, besides what you see here, paper towels, a couple paper towels in case of a spill, and a sponge, which I like to use in the studio as well, to wipe my brush on. The travel brushes have two rounds, a dagger brush and a square, and they all fit into their own handles in this pouch. So when I'm looking for a portable solution, I'm using the mini mister in my crossbody bag that I take for urban sketching, but the spray bottle for the studio, of course, is much bigger. For on location, I use a very inexpensive, colorful pencil. Not such a great eraser, but I can find it if I drop it and I'm on location. Here's the better eraser, the kneaded eraser that I use almost always to protect the surface of the paper if I do need to erase something. Now I'm going to start out in real time here, the way that I would do a preliminary sketch. I'm perhaps standing or sitting in my car, observing a scene in the winter. It's cold outside, so I'm nice and warm in the car. I see some people walking down a path. So first thing I want to do here is kind of establish the pathway. So there's something for that part of my focal point or area of interest. Okay, now I'm going to speed this up because you can see now my normal speed that I sketch. This is positioning. What I'm doing here is I'm just getting a height or how big the people might be, how much space they would take up. Not sure if I want to put a dog in here or not. No. Okay, now over here is the grid or the rule of thirds. Any of these four places can be a place of interest. So if I have the people over there, and then on the right hand upper quadrant I have a really, really nice big tree. I can use that as a major feature in the painting. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the basic shape of it, and I don't have to stay with this if I don't like the shapes when the brush gets there, but pretty much this is kind of just saving the space, getting some angles so I can concentrate on the color and the method of using my watercolor. So space in between. This is a bigger trunk over here. Okay, get another angle going here with a medium-sized limb from the tree down to the ground level where it's got the roots sticking into the ground. Okay, see how wide that is. Yeah, that's good. Don't be getting a cast shadow maybe from that. Okay. A lot of details I can take care of with the brush as well, but this reminds me to put maybe a branch coming forward. Okay, now let's see, this needs to connect. So we'll use some shrubbery in the background. Over here, make an embankment, I think. In a different shape. Come down and create an edge. Oh, it's a little scribbly here, so I'm going to need the eraser, get rid of that shape. It's a little wobbly. See if I can simplify that at all. Maybe bring it down a little bit farther too. I want this about down to here, I think. Okay, maybe put in an edge. Let's have that for a little creek here. Okay, now let's go over here to this upper left area and put another group of trees here to balance that large tree in the right hand upper quadrant. So this will be more of a medium-sized group. Let's see, there. Have it leaning in a little bit and toward the middle of the picture. Another tree here. Little one. Better branch here, this group here. Okay, interconnecting lines. See, we've got this medium size, we've got this larger area here. Now, okay, fill in this branch right here. Find a way of connecting the larger to the medium shape. With the background hill in between the shapes, connecting those all the way through most of the background. Good. Large, medium, small. Got a variety of interesting shapes. Now, background painted in with kind of lavender plus kind of a red-violet, soft red-violet color for the early morning light. Using lavender and some of the fuchsia color that's in my palette there. Pre-wet this tree area here with some lighter warm colors. I'm using warmer colors here to show that you can have winter paintings without them looking frigidly cold, and gives you an opportunity to play with another group of colors. You can see that I'm also using more opaque colors in the background. Lavender is a semi-opaque color, so I'm just using the transparent ones for some very pale washes on the trees and some of the shrubbery there in the foreground. Now, those are those extra trees and branches that I decided I might need in the background here, just with the brush. Neutral colors, semi-neutral colors. And soft edges. Okay, now we've got Undersea green. Usually I don't use a pre-made green, but it's the least important of the colors here, and it's going on top of some of the other existing colors. Okay, this area is still pretty wet, which is good. You will see why in just a minute. So while I'm blending in some of these softer passages of the Undersea green to help show the edges of that plane in the background. Let's see, back across here, a little bit here. I don't want it to be all green everywhere, but I want it to stay wet too, so let's keep going here. Now we're looking around in the whole area here for balance. I want this secondary color here to be sprinkled in and around the painting, so for color harmony. So a little bit in the middle ground, a little bit along the edge, a little bit in the foreground. Keep everything pretty wet. Okay, now I am going to re-wet the area right here behind the trees and along this middle distance, this distant hillside. Make it a little darker too, and I'm using more of the lavender color. Okay, I want this to be thick. I want it to stay wet long enough for me to do a special technique to soften edges here. All right, pull out some color. Okay, good. So I want to give the effect of frost, so I can do it this way. I will sprinkle some table salt on a damp surface. And that's why I didn't wet the sky. If I wet the sky, then it would look like it was snowing. But if I just do the landforms at the right time with my table salt, then the little crystals will pick up this crinkly, crusty, frosty looking texture. So that's going to take a while to dry. Let you see up close here some of the effect that's already taking place. The little salt crystals are picking up the paint underneath it and leaving that sort of frosty sparkle. Okay, while we're waiting for that background to dry, take an extra piece of paper here. Remember those figures? I saved a space for them. Let's practice a couple of different sizes here to see what would look the best, and also maybe see if my color choices will work out. So first I do the largest shape, which is the torso. This is a little bit of a subtle play on red and green complementaries, but subdued because of the kind of lighting we have in the early morning. So we'll just get some ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, make the legs for this one, let that blend in a little bit. Okay, heads. Let's see. Lift out a little color. Well, actually, I'm going to put some lavender on here. Yeah, that could work. I think it's smaller than what I said I was going to have. So, put this shadow shape in here. Cast shadows. Always put those when you do your figures. Let's see, taking a picture. Maybe. Okay, let's try a little bit bigger and maybe, I don't know, some different shapes. Bigger though. So that's raw sienna that I like to put underneath because it lifts off easily. So if there's a part of the figure I don't like, I can lift it out with a thirsty brush and start over without staining the paper. Even staining colors won't stain on top of raw sienna. Okay, so let's, instead of putting that posture there, let's say this woman's gonna have a bag. Let's get her hair here, this head here. Have lavender on that left-hand coat already. Now let's get some legs here so that the balance of the figure is right. Oh, we've got long coats in the winter time and bulky. That tells us the weather as well. And then let's see if we can soften these edges down here in between the figures and their legs. Maybe we can push them together a little closer, soften the edges. Good. Okay, let's put the cast shadows in. All right, I already like them better. That's a better size, it's a better posture. So that's what we're going to put in the final painting there. Right there. See, about the same size as I was planning anyway. Good one. All right. Now this background here is still very damp. Salt water does that, you know. So I'm going to have to do something to speed this along a little bit. So I'm going to use my hairdryer. Okay, feel that? Yeah, that's bone dry. I can feel the rough texture of this salt on here, so using a rag instead of my fingers, and I'll take it over to the sink and rub it off there. I'll be right back. Okay, got all of the sandy texture off of here. Feel with your fingers to make sure that you don't have any granules of salt embedded into the paper, because that'll affect successive washes. Okay, over here on the left-hand section, the medium-sized group of trees, it's time to get some darker values, show some texture, maybe a little leftover snow from the night before or from the frost before. Get some nice dark values happening here. Using the leftover white paper to help with that texture and with the feeling of previous night's snow or frost. Since this is on the periphery, there isn't going to be a lot of contrast between the light and shadow, since there isn't that much light and shadow this time of day. And also with the overcast, there isn't a lot of contrast, light and shadow on the forms of the trees and the shrubbery and so on. So just get a darker value here, just using ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. This mister will give me soft edges and wet into wet sort of feeling here. Keep it a little bit undefined along the outer edges of the painting. Let's see, get this. I was going to have a branch here. That gets us to the edge. Okay, and let's let that blend in a little bit. Some of that previous salt is going to show a little bit of frost looking texture here too once it gets dry. Good. Now, how about our figures? Let's put those in. Okay, now let's get the largest shape first, the torso with the big winter coats. Doing it in raw sienna in case I need to lift out anything. I'm going to put him a little closer than I did on my practice piece. Now the red, put a little strong red at the bottom toward the top here. And a little darker down here at the bottom, more paint. Now this one, a bit of lavender on here. Soften the edges between them. Get some dark for the legs and let it blend into the coat. Same over here. Maybe a little dry brush if I can manage it. Shows action. Okay, head. And let's see if I can get her facing the other person too. Let's see, let's put this person's head looking down. Now let's see. Might have to lift some color out of there. Lift a little bit of extra color with a thirsty brush off the top of the shoulders. Okay, and then get my brush loaded with a little more of that greenish lavender color. Okay, cast shadows. Always touching the foot that's touching the ground. All right, let's see. I think this needs to be a bit lighter. I'm putting a little bit of white gouache mixed in with the paint here just to give us a little bit of contrast between that and the background. They're almost the same color, which is fine, but I just like that little extra light effect there. It'll lighten up a little bit when it gets dry too. Over here, she's got a bag. The top of the shoulder is a little more orange looking there. Now, I take some this dark black off of here just by a thirsty brush. Just a damp brush and just pushing the paint away, lifting it off. Now, put more of a face color on here. A little burnt sienna is good. Tiny little spaces, but we're always so particular when we look at people, aren't we? Okay, that's pretty good. I could finesse this just a little bit more. As it dries too, the color lightens up. Let's look at it closer. There we go. Two friends walking in the frosty morning. Okay, so this is another way that you can get the effect of frost. You can use dry brush. So as you hold the brush sideways and kind of sort of scraping it along the surface of the paper, the bumps of the paper pick up the paint, and there's little voids left where the dips of the paper are, still showing the lighter underpainting, and that gives you that frosty, crinkly, frosty look too. So I'm alternating variations of the mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, just giving it the dry brush effect here and there. This is an area that's closer to the viewer, so it has a little more contrast, even though the atmosphere is the same as the frosty distance and the frosty middle area. But we can get a little bit more color happening here, harder, darker edges sometimes, and warm against cool variations, and some more branches and details happening. I'm speeding up this video slightly so that you can quickly see the progress that's being made and where the next step goes. So I'm going to be developing this major area of interest, giving it some dry brush effect to duplicate the idea of frost and a cold wintry morning. If you were sitting in your car, you could have your heater on and you could have your latte in the cup holder, and even some music if you wanted to. So let's see how this goes. And there we have it, a walk in the park on a frosty morning. Thanks for watching. See you next time.